Hello everyone, nice to meet you again and welcome back to my channel. Today, as I promised before, we will start to talk about the OUAF framework. So, first part, I would like to talk about data and process. I've been working on quite a few softwares during my career. Besides Oracle Utilities, I've worked and certified on Salesforce, and also I had experience with Microsoft Dynamics. In my view, all these softwares can be simply divided into two areas: data and the process. The data being static represent the business information, and the process being dynamic representing business activities. So I can imagine them as black and white in the yin yang. Although you can treat them separately, but they must be applied together when you're trying to understand and resolve a particular business issue in the system. I do often hear from developers saying, I cannot understand this part when looking at a particular screen. I advise him to think separately first. Whatever is showing on the screen must be sourced from the backend data, and treat the screen rendering as a process. So in the OUF framework, then you can trace the data in the database, presenting it in application metadata layer, and then render it to the screen in either HTML format or using configuration tools like UI map or UI hint in business object to render that to the screen. So when you are able to clearly split data and process, you can then visualize the system behavior clearly. Okay, second part, I would like to talk about the layers of data. So as today we focus on data, I want to describe how data is used in the OUAF framework. So first of all, I would like to introduce the architecture of the framework. We will have database layer, application layer, and web server layer. So in these layers, you can resize the data in the database and framed by the tables and the fields. In the application layer, there is a layer of metadata describing and mapping the database tables and fields. If you look at admin menu, you can find these metadata information, and the reason metadata is needed is to technically map and link the database and application server. To achieve the flexibility of business requirements, two new concepts are introduced: maintenance object and business object. Maintenance object is a collection of database tables where it presents a database entity, where in the option you can define various business rules. And a business object can be defined on top of the maintenance object with additional business rules defined. It's very difficult to describe exactly what is the relationship between maintenance object and the business object. But if you have done programming before, you can think of them being abstract class and class extending abstract class. So in the early days of CCMB, objects are built directly on top of maintenance objects. So that's why you won't be able to see the business object for the CCMB entities, including account, person, and service agreement, for example. Whereas you can find in the later developed products like MDM, it follows a clear path by reviewing the business objects and its life cycle. You can find out where and how the system behaviors are defined. But don't worry, you're at the right place because we are going to talk through these issues and troubles together in the next coming videos. Okay, next one. I would like to talk about to do and not to do. Now, there are quite a lot of best practice advice from Oracle, and I'm going to highlight just a few below. So on the data level, what should we not do? First, I would say don't change the schema in database. Don't create custom tables and fields. When you are starting to look closer on the database, you can actually find that the majority of these base tables are already providing two mechanisms. For storing additional fields, you can either choose to put them into the data area in the club type or as characteristics in the child table. So this is enough to handle any additional fields, any additional business attributes. If you need to define new objects, first try to use and extend on existing maintenance objects. The second is do not add business logic in the schema in database level. For example, if you want to add a store procedure, think about how you can implement that in the application layer as an algorithm, for example. If you want to add logics for your data validation, for example, add that in the business object, maintenance object in the application level. It is much easier to create and also maintain. Last one, I would say do not overuse the characteristic. I've seen some projects before, people are defining hundreds of characteristics on the service points for the additional fields. Although it looks much easier to query, as you can simply join the parent and child tables, it's actually ending up with massive SQL if you are having criteria multiple attributes. So sometimes with this complexity of effective date, it will become even more unhandleable. So I would suggest if you have clear set of attributes, if you want to query them often on database level, you can define them in the characteristic, but the rest of them, put that into a club. Because if you want to use that in the application in your script, if you want to refer them, normally what you can do is just invoke the business object. So all the information will be a part of the data area. Okay, let's talk about what you should do. So, first of all, before you actually change anything on the data, understand your business data. Understand the nature of your business data. Only you understand the business requirements, you can define the form of the data if sufficiently. Think very carefully before making decisions on data because the maintenance of or the migration will be very costly if you're not clearly thought through, um, as the case whether it should be a characteristic or should be included in the club. The second thing is structural metadata design. In the metadata layer, you can define metadata fields to describe how it should be shown in the UI. You can also group attributes in the data areas, which extends existing structures. So, for example, the data area can extend an additional data area, and or it can extend a existing business object. In programming, we have a concept called refactoring. So you should use that when you are designing your data model. The last one is treat your data static, but don't forget the dynamic aspect at the same time. So consider what are the possible validation at which scenario. For example, if you want to validate a geocode for a gas service point, but you don't need to validate in terms of electricity. So in that case, think about where you should put the design and plug-in rule in terms of the service point, or what is the criteria you should add when you are designing these validation rules. Okay, the timer is running really fast, and I'm going to talk about data model in CCNB and the MDM as my next topic. But today we don't have time, so I will leave it to the next video. So if you find the video useful, again, please subscribe and share to your friends and colleagues. So we have also have a WhatsApp group for the technical discussion as well. If you like to join, please do. I hope I will make more Q&A videos in additional to these topic-based videos. So let's work together to make it better. Thank you and have a good weekend. See you next week.